When it comes to beloved 90s movie franchises, few are as divisive among audiences as the Jurassic Park franchise. From revolutionary visual effects and groundbreaking animatronic technology to human cloning and dinosaur domestication, these 6 installments of this franchise have a lot to offer. For better or worse, these movies are a staple for many family movie nights and have made for an incredible theater experience over the series' 29-year run. This, of course, is proved by the billions of dollars that the films would generate in ticket sales, home media, and countless merchandising opportunities. But if you don't got the time or the guts to sit through one of the most iconic franchises of all time, don't worry. For today, we will be getting into what the f*** you need to know about the Jurassic Park franchise. The Jurassic Park/Jurassic World franchise follows a story across decades which tracks the recreation of dinosaurs via cloning on a remote island and the human secret scientists and business people who try to study, exploit, and even genetically engineer these prehistoric beasts. While the first 3 films focus on the island that the dinosaurs are inhabiting, the later trilogy would follow a different group of scientists in the modern age, with the dinosaurs being on the mainland among the humans. Along the way, there's some great discoveries, hilarious moments, dangerous missions, and downright terrifying encounters with these people-eating raptors. But before we can take that terrifying leap into the Jurassic Park movies, we need to take a quick look at where it began. Jurassic Park was originally a novel written by Michael Crichton in the year 1990, but before the book was even published, Amblin Entertainment, aka Steven Spielberg, and Universal Studios swooped in and bought the rights to adapt a film out of the book. The novel did end up getting published and released to help promote the film. The investment cost Spielberg $1.5 million, and I'm no mathematician, but I'm pretty sure the juice was worth the squeeze on that one. Now, Spielberg had just come off of shooting the classic Peter Pan tale, Hook, and he wanted his next project to be Schindler's List, another classic. But you know that old saying in Hollywood, do one for the studio, then one for yourself? Which reminds me, I'm doing this one for you. So if you feel like doing something for yourself, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe for the best in movie content. So Spielberg was convinced by Universal to shoot their newly prioritized film, Jurassic Park, first before going into production on anything else. And so began the start of one of the largest cinematic attractions that the world has ever seen. The novel that the first film was based on would of course make for a beautiful spectacle in live action. The only problem was something this size and scope had never been put to screen before. Creating the big screen vision for Jurassic Park would require imagination beyond what was cinematically possible for the time, and Spielberg really wanted to make sure that the movie convinced audiences that dinosaurs could be alive again. So, how did he do that? Well, he hired Stan Winston, Hollywood's foremost expert on movie animatronics, and an entire team of experts in special effects and digital compositing to make the prehistoric creatures look real. The entire reputation of Jurassic Park as a film was riding on this one element, and if nothing else, the dinosaurs had to look real. Spielberg was also keen to shoot the dinosaurs like animals rather than monsters, which would definitely play a huge part in why we all tear up a little bit when we see a T-Rex save the day in any of these movies. According to Michael Crichton, his novel contained about 80% more content than the screenplay for the movie, which would have expanded more on the majestic creature of the dinosaur. Popular screenwriter David Coep, who you might know as the writer on films like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, Mission Impossible, and War of the Worlds, was also hired to make rewrites and additions to the script, which had been passed through many hands during development. The casting of the film began in 1991, and Universal originally offered William Hurt the role of straight man main character Alan Grant, a paleontologist with a fear and fascination for dinosaurs. However, Hurt turned down the role and declined to even read the script. Same goes for everyone's favorite adventurer, Harrison Ford, who was also not interested. With only 3 weeks until shooting began, the studio finally found a suitable actor for the role in Sam Neill, who has said himself that the casting process was quick and easy for him due to the time crunch. I, for one, am happy that we got this cast for Alan Grant, and I love seeing him throughout this entire franchise. Jeff Goldblum was cast as Dr. Ian Malcolm, even beating out Jim Carrey for the role. Laura Dern was supposedly the only actress that Spielberg had in mind for the role of Ellie Sattler in the beginning, and again, this is a very solid casting choice for this movie. For the first film, we also saw Richard Attenborough as the wealthy venture capitalist John Hammond, as well as Samuel L. Jackson and Wayne Knight. With a well-rounded cast of talented actors and a $63 million budget, which is like $130 million today, it was time for our filmmakers to make a film. The first installment follows paleontologist Dr. Alan Grant as he tours a remote island which serves as the home for an in-development theme park being built by an eccentric billionaire who aims to exploit the island's native predators, the dinosaur. Along the way, Grant needs to work with Dr. Ellie Sattler and Dr. Ian Malcolm to protect a pair of kids from the dinosaurs after a power outage frees them and they are on a rampage. The movie opens up with the promise of something thrilling when we see a team of workers get killed by a velociraptor within the first 5 minutes. Although we don't really see this attack at first, the movie is teasing what promised audiences in 1993 to be a genuine thrill ride. The movie then introduces us to our main characters, Alan Grant and Ellie Sattler, as they're working in the Badlands to dig up dinosaur bones. Alan and Ellie are summoned to Isla Nublar, where the theme park extraordinaire and shady businessman John Hammond needs some professionals to verify that his operation of running a theme park amongst dinosaurs is safe. Of course, it isn't safe, and it's only a matter of time before we discover just how unsafe it is. Don't worry, we're going to talk all about the dinosaurs later in this video. The cast of this movie establishes some character tropes that would go on to be included in the subsequent films as well. We have our heroic straight man with expertise in dinosaur study, we have a shady and morally flexible venture capitalist with ulterior motives, we have a nurturing but tough romantic lead who has more to do than just scream and look scared, which I appreciate, and we have two kids who need protecting, John Hammond's grandchildren, who provide a sense of magic and adventure that our adult characters seem to lack. This movie features a T-Rex as the main dinosaur villain of the story, although it leaves the core cast of characters unharmed by the end, so it also could be a dinosaur hero, if you think about it. This is going to be the only possible entry point for newcomers for this franchise. This movie sets it all up, and it really does not disappoint. The special and visual effects are so good that they still hold up almost 3 decades later. Steven Spielberg's dedication to making this movie look as real as possible made for a compelling story with audiences genuinely feeling the thrill of interacting with these creatures. When the film opened up in theaters on June 11th, 1993, it crushed its opening weekend with a $50 million box office pull in the first 2 days. The film was widely embraced by family audiences across the globe, and it looked like Spielberg had done it again. In fact, this movie had surpassed E.T. the Extraterrestrial as the highest grossing movie of all time the year that it came out.
Really spectacular, spared no expense.
It seems like Steven Spielberg's only real competition in those days was himself. The film was received well and highly praised by audiences and critics alike, with the New York Times calling it a true movie milestone, presenting awe and fear-inspiring sights never seen on the screen. Definitely make sure you go back and give this one a watch once in a while with your family. Or do what I did and just watch it alone while admiring Goldblum's haircut. I really do enjoy this first entry of Jurassic and definitely think it's the ideal starting place for you. A whole 4 years after the release and booming success of Jurassic Park, Spielberg would return to the helm to direct a follow-up film that would offer us more dinosaur action, but fewer faces than we'd recognize from the previous movie. In this film, Jeff Goldblum reprises his role as Dr. Ian Malcolm, a snarky scientist with experience in taking on dinosaur clones. Ian Malcolm is led back to Isla Nublar after being summoned by John Hammond, the eccentric benefactor of the original theme park in the first movie. Hammond wants to speak to Malcolm about an attack that occurred on the island, while we also learn that Hammond's nephew, Peter, has some plans of his own involving his uncle's company, InGen, and the wild dinosaurs that inhabit the island. Malcolm is not so easily convinced to return until he learns that his girlfriend Sarah, a paleontologist, is already on the island. So, Ian returns after his girlfriend, and audiences were introduced to the new core team. We meet Eddie, played by Richard Schiff, Nick Van Owen, played by Vince Vaughn, and then Ian's daughter, who is discovered to be hidden in the trailer cargo. The goal is simple: retrieve Sarah and keep the team safe while preventing Peter and his gang of big game hunters from catching the island's dinosaur life and exploiting it for entertainment. But when the plan falls apart, we're left right back in the action with even more intense dinosaur kills, screaming, running, and T-Rex. In the end, the team is aided by a T-Rex as it escapes and takes out the only evil members of the story, effectively saving the day. Convenient? Yes. But also, this movie is one of the rare occasions where the first film's formula wasn't a copy and paste onto the next one. Seeing as the movie's budget was higher than the first film, you'd be safe to assume that Spielberg returning with more money would automatically mean a bigger return on investment for Amblin and Universal. The marketing of this film was also much bigger in scope, including a promotional website, over 70 70 promotional partnerships with other companies and brands, and of course a trailer that promised to deliver a satisfying sequel. And with all the efforts made by the studio to make this movie a massive pop culture event, audiences were ready to show up to the tune of over $90 million on Memorial Day weekend 1997, making it the highest grossing movie of all time, beating out Joel Schumacher's Batman Forever. However, despite all the money being made, the film's critical response was mixed and much lower than the first film. Jurassic Park and the Lost World holds a 53% on Rotten Tomatoes, with many praising its use of CGI technology, but feeling that the story wasn't compelling enough to live up to the first film. And you know what? I think I agree. What do you guys think? Comment down below. But of course, in Hollywood, it doesn't matter if your movie is any good as long as it makes the bucks. And this movie made the bucks. So naturally, the studio was excited to begin production on. Now, before the first time I saw this movie, I had very little knowledge of Spielberg's previous films, but by 2001, when this movie was released, I was into the idea of human-eating dinosaurs terrorizing an island full of tourists and scientists. What I got instead was... Alan. Jurassic Park III was the studio's attempt to keep the financial success of Jurassic Park on high while also returning to form. The film attempts to deliver a familiar story with the reintroduction of the beloved main character, Dr. Alan Grant from Jurassic Park, as he returns to the island on false pretenses and is forced to survive using his knowledge of these horrifying predators. Grant being back as our main character felt like a step in the right direction, but Universal couldn't get Steven Spielberg to return to the director's chair, which passed off the production to Joe Johnston, who you may know as the director from films like Jumanji, Captain America: The First Avenger, and The Rocketeer. This gave the movie its own unique style, and it felt less like a wonder-filled adventure and more like a creature feature horror movie, featuring some of the more graphic action with dinosaurs and even more kills than we've seen before. Now, what kind of Jurassic Park movie would this be without a terrifying velociraptor to encounter? The team encounters multiple scary dinosaurs, and the kills are actually pretty entertaining, even if we don't get to actually see all of them. But the final act of this movie shows how a stolen dinosaur egg could have actually been the only means of survival that the team had, which kinda makes you wonder, did Billy deserve this? The movie was released in July 2001 and raked in a total of $19 million on the Wednesday that it opened, and even went on to become the highest grossing movie of 2001 with a lifetime box office of $368 million worldwide. This means that Jurassic World 3 became the fourth highest grossing July release of all time. And it all sounds very impressive, but in reality, this was the lowest grossing Jurassic Park movie of the original trilogy. Critics and audiences seemed less impressed with this installment, and the tone of the movie may play a big part of that. This movie feels more like a slasher film than a grand epic discovery adventure. It does, however, have some incredible visuals, and to me, this movie is overhated and not nearly as unbalanced as some people think. Watch it for yourself before you decide how you feel. After a long break, Jurassic Park and the franchise that introduced moviegoers to the wonder and amazement of dinosaurs in the modern day seem to fall out of favor to movies like Spider-Man and the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy. While Amblin Entertainment did play with the idea for a fourth Jurassic Park film somewhere in between those years, with Joe Johnston set to return as director, the idea for the movie just never came together in full on the page. This caused a more than 10-year gap between Jurassic Park III and 2015's Jurassic World. Jurassic World follows Owen Grady and Claire Dearing, played by Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard respectively, as a pair of dinosaur experts who work at Jurassic Park on Isle New Bar, as they have to survive the escape of the terrifying Indominus Rex as it uses its enhanced abilities to hunt down its prey on the island. The film shot in Hawaii and stars some fresh faces to the franchise, but faces that are easily recognizable in Hollywood. And it also sees the return of B.D. Wong, the antagonistic research scientist from the first film. Dallas Howard and Pratt are the main characters for the movie, and at first I wasn't very fond of Pratt's performance as the almost too good at his job Owen Grady. However, over time and after 3 installments, I definitely think these films benefit from having a character that has such expertise with these creatures. The movie was teased online with promotional images and details released at San Diego Comic-Con in 2014, and the hype for this movie was buzzing throughout social media, and it really seemed like the public was ready to show up once again for an epic thrill ride of man-eating dinosaurs. The movie played on the idea that the once seemingly impossible theme park attraction could be open to the public and safe to take your children to. But come on, this is Jurassic World, not We Built a Zoo. So naturally, this movie needs to see an escaped dino that has a much bigger threat over everybody else than any of the previous dinosaurs we've seen in Jurassic Park. The Indominus Rex is a genetically altered dinosaur who was born in captivity with her twin sister, who she also ate alive, just to give you the context of how gnarly this dinosaur is. And more on these dino villains coming soon, promise. Jurassic World opened in the summer of 2015 and was able to bring in more money in its first weekend than any other movie to date at that time, bringing a total of over $500 million in just 2 days. Critically, the film was also well received, and it seemed like fans were highly interested in seeing this world expand and hopefully one day get what we've all been waiting to see since 1993. Dinosaurs on the mainland painting the town red. The movie made over $1 billion while playing in theaters, and that was more than enough convincing for the studio to greenlight the next planned installment, Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. So a friend of mine, and also the producer of this show, Tyler, hi Tyler, described this film as a Jurassic horror movie. And you know what? I don't disagree. The second film in the second trilogy deals with the new idea. What if instead of the dinosaurs being the big threat, the real villain of this movie was a giant volcano about to erupt and wipe out the remaining species of dinosaurs on Isla Nublar? Owen and Claire need to travel to the island and save their animals from certain doom, and this means that instead of seeing the same old Jurassic Park tropes take place, we're witnessing a group of dino experts as they try to help the very species that audiences have come to fear. There are some risky elements added to this movie, as well as the idea of genetic cloning in humans becoming part of the story and using the cloning of dinosaurs as kind of a catalyst for this storyline. It honestly works for me in this movie, and for some reason I think it has a lot to do with the movie already feeling like a different kind of Jurassic film. We also get some more returning characters from the first film as Jeff Goldblum joins the cast to add some dinosaur expertise to the story and keep things entertaining. So this movie tried something different, and the risk paid off in one way while becoming a bit of a detriment to the franchise in another way. The movie benefited from the Jurassic Park name, bringing in fans of the previous installments, while critics and audiences mostly left the theater disappointed in this entry, with some critics saying that the movie lacked any genuinely thrilling moments, chalking it up as an expensive spectacle blockbuster movie with no soul. I personally think this movie is so good looking and entertaining that I can appreciate the unique tone of this one. And it did make over $47 million in its first weekend, but home release was less impressive, and ultimately this movie seems to be one of the least beloved of the entire franchise. Okay, now this may be the most hated film in the entire collection.
That is one big pile of shit.
What is it with third installments? They never seem to stick the landing, and that goes double for Jurassic Park, as both Jurassic Park III and Jurassic World Dominion are seen as the weakest links in the entire franchise. Although I agree that Dominion didn't exactly stick the landing among audiences, it did serve as the end cap for the 6-movie run, which brought audiences out to witness. This movie promised the one thing that Jurassic Park fans have waited to see for almost 30 years: dinosaurs on the mainland running amok. And did we get that? No, not really. This final entry picks up after the ending of Fallen Kingdom, with the surviving species of dinosaurs roaming the earth freely and causing natural disasters and terrorizing the mainland for about 9 seconds. We really don't get all the promise of the trailers in this movie, with some of the more exciting footage from the trailer, like the dinosaur at the drive-in theater, not even being used in the actual final cut of the film. Instead, the long-awaited ending chose to focus on the relationship between a human clone and a velociraptor, while also giving way too much attention to Biosyn, a company that has appeared in the franchise throughout and now is creating locusts that are limiting the planet's food supply. Did you forget we were talking about a Jurassic movie? That's okay. I did too when I was watching it. This brings the crew to Malta, Italy, where we are treated to some awesome action scenes in dinosaur horror. This film was sort of advertised to be the Avengers Endgame of the franchise, and the trailer even revealed the return of Dr. Alan Grant, Dr. Ellie Sattler, and of course, Dr. Ian Malcolm, all played by their original actors. This is the stuff that the movie should have spent more time on. It was so entertaining to see our old stars interacting with the new stars and discuss their individual adventures and experiences. But but to me it felt more like fan service than story service. However, the film did open with $392 million globally, which makes it the highest grossing film of the year, despite being the worst scored of the series on Rotten Tomatoes. Personally, I really just didn't get this one.
Now eventually you do plan to have dinosaurs on your dinosaur tour, right?
And now that we know what the movies have in store, let's take a look at some of the most important characters and dinosaurs from the franchise. Dr. Alan Grant. A leading man that guided us through our first brush with dinosaurs in the modern era, Dr. Alan Grant is one protagonist that this franchise can always count on. The T-Rex. Come on, how could you possibly not include a T-Rex in this list? Over the course of the franchise, villainous creatures have come and gone over and over, but the T-Rex has remained the victor over all and is a staple of this franchise. Dr. Ellie Sattler. Sattler is a character in this franchise that stands out as a bleeding heart and empathetic hero. No matter how much she deserves to hate these dinos, she never will. Blue and the Velociraptors. The Velociraptors haunt my nightmares to this day, and they probably always will. From their first terrifying appearance in Jurassic Park to the evolved and semi-domesticated creatures of Jurassic World, these little devils are too important to deny. Blue specifically gets a shout out, as it's because of her that I may one day consider petting a Velociraptor. Owen Grady. I must admit that at first I wasn't a huge fan of Pratt in these movies. I thought I took issue with a character that has seemingly no character flaws, but as I continued, I found Owen Grady to be a perfect protagonist and leading man for these movies. The Indominus Rex. She's just straight badass, am I right? Dr. Claire Dearing. Similar to Sattler, Claire Dearing is a compassionate character almost to a fault. She truly sees these dinosaurs as beautiful wild animals that deserve the same love and respect as any other living creature. Maybe it's the animal lover in me, but I dig that. Dr. Ian Malcolm. Need I go on? From the wisecracking mathematician with a strange laugh to our shiny leading man, Ian Malcolm is always welcome in a Jurassic Park film. The Spinosaurus. This dinosaur doesn't quite live up to the hype that it was advertised to, but at the end of the day, if you want a scary dino that stands out and is visually impressive, you can't go wrong with this one. Dr. Wu. An ongoing antagonist, Dr. Wu is a worthy villain whose connections, status, and brains make him a great reoccurring character to keep an eye on. John Hammond. Why does looking at John Hammond always make me crave KFC? John Hammond is our billionaire sugar daddy and the whole reason that we have a Jurassic Park to begin with. Okay, now this part was tough to iron out. Technically, you'll want to watch every movie if you want the whole story. However, if you're just looking to be entertained now that you know the story, here's what we at JoBlo consider required viewing. Now, for the movies that didn't seem to add anything new or exciting to the franchise, here's the ones that you can probably skip out on. It's a pretty even split, but if you want only the best in Jurassic Park, there you go. And with that, there is no word on when we'll get another Jurassic adventure, and I think that this is one franchise that we can let be extinct for just a little while. The movies have a sense of wonder and scope that is sure to entertain you, but for every good Jurassic Park film, there's another one that may leave you feeling less excited and more exhausted. As we continue diving into movie franchises and the good, bad, and ugly entries within them, please remember to check in for more episodes and feel free to leave a comment with other recommendations for franchises we should break down. And that, my friends, is what the f*** you need to know about the Jurassic Park franchise. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time on JoBlo.
Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. JoBlo was created by movie fans for movie fans, and we appreciate your support.